He betrayed me with my own sister, now I'm pregnant with his brother's baby. I used to narrate my life like a Pinterest board. I am a successful 30-year-old woman, married to Malcolm, 2-bedroom condo, lemon cake on Sundays. The day the board caught fire, I was piping meringue swirls onto cupcakes for my sister Melanie's birthday. I'd even zest extra lemons because Mal loves the edges crispy. My phone buzzed. Group chat, Mel's big 2 to 8, a flood of photos, Melanie in a sequin dress, Melanie with sparklers, Melanie doing that duck lip thing she swore she'd outgrown. I was about to heart one when a boomerang caught in my throat, Mel and a man clinking champagne in the mirror of La Scala's bathroom. The caption said, "Find your partner in crime," and the reflection said the quiet part out loud, Malcolm's hand on her waist, his signet ring glinting in the curve of her hip. I stared so long the butter curdled. "Alice?" Malcolm called from the living room, TV murmuring soccer. "You good, babe?" "Fine," I said, which tasted like metal. I went forensic. Zoomed. The ring had the nick from our move. The watch, his grandfather's, with the hairline crack. And Melanie's smile, my smile, but crooked with something reckless. My thumbs trembled. I texted her, "Cute dress." She replied instantly, "Borrowed it from your closet. Hope that's okay." My brain split, one part of me scraped frosting into the trash, the other walked into our bedroom closet, pulled my gold dress from its hanger, and found a dry cleaning tag stapled inside with yesterday's date. I hadn't worn it in months. "Hey," Malcolm said, appearing in the doorway, stadium-lit grin dimming when he saw the dress. "What's up?" "Wrong tag," I said. My voice kept its job while my heart quit on the spot. "You been dry cleaning my clothes?" His laugh came out crooked. "Is this a riddle?" Then, like the universe was bored with hints, my phone pinged with a photo I never asked for, a hotel valet ticket, timestamped 1:12 a.m. last night, issued to M&M. There was a scribble of a heart in the corner. The sender was unknown. The subject line read simply, "You deserve the whole truth." I heard myself say, "How's Melanie's birthday?" and watched his pupils shrink. "Boring," he said too fast. "You know Mel. Shots and selfies. She borrowed my dress." "Twinsies?" He tried a smile. It didn't land. I set the dress on the bed like a body. "Give me your phone." He scoffed. "Wow. Paranoid much?" "Give me your phone, Malcolm." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Something colder had moved in. He handed it over, unlocked. Clean. Suspiciously museum clean. No texts with Melanie, no late-night maps, no hotel confirmations. But his notes app had a grocery list that read, "Eggs, rosemary, lie better." I would have left if I didn't want to break my hands. "Get out," I said. "For real?" He blinked like a deer in a kitchen. "For real." I pointed at the door. "Take the couch somewhere else." He sputtered. "Alice, don't be dramatic. Mel's your sister. Don't make this." "Don't make this what?" I asked. "Mathematically obvious?" He took a step toward me, I stepped back. The distance turned into a canyon. He grabbed his keys, then hesitated. "We're solid," he said, like reciting a fact. "We're, us." When the door clicked, the condo deflated. I slid to the floor with my back against the oven and watched the cupcakes collapse like tiny buildings. A new message arrived from unknown, "Check the spare key under your sister's fern." I drove to Melanie's. The fern on her balcony was dying, because of course it was, and beneath it lay our old spare house key, the one I thought we'd lost in January. In her sink, 2 champagne flutes. On her couch, Malcolm's hoodie, still warm at the throat. In her trash, a lemon peel. I texted unknown, "Who are you?" They replied, "Richard." "He's my brother." "I'm sorry." I stared through the blur. Malcolm's brother. The only person who'd ever told me, at our wedding, in a quiet voice over bad jazz, "If he hurts you, I'll help you build a new life from screws up." I typed, "He did. Richard, then let's start with screws." It rained that night, the kind of heavy, soaking rain that makes the air smell like asphalt and regret. I sat in my car outside Melanie's apartment until the windows fogged. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the betrayal or how familiar it already felt. Richard called me just as the thunder cracked. His voice was low, like he'd been holding his breath all evening. "Alice," he said, "you shouldn't be there." "Too late," I whispered. "She's got my dress. My husband's hoodie. My sister's perfume on his collar." A silence. Then, "Do you want me to come?" I didn't know why I said yes. Maybe because he was the only one who sounded like he understood the gravity of this. Within 20 minutes, headlights swept across my rearview mirror. Richard stepped out into the rain without an umbrella. When he reached my car, he didn't ask questions. He just opened the passenger door and sat there, rain dripping from his hair onto his shirt. "He's an idiot," he said finally. I laughed, but it came out broken. "You think?" He smiled sadly. "He always was. Just hit it well when you were around." I turned to him. "You knew?" "No," he said quickly. "But I knew the way he looked at himself in mirrors more than he looked at you. That's not love, Alice. That's ego." The windshield wiper squeaked. Outside, lightning flashed over the skyline. For the first time that day, I cried, not the hysterical kind, but the quiet, slow kind that leaves salt tracks and no sound. Richard didn't try to stop me. He just leaned back, hands on his knees. "You're allowed to break," he said. "You just can't stay broken." Something in his tone steadied me. I wiped my eyes and exhaled. "He's not coming home tonight." "I know," Richard murmured. "He's at the Hilton on Park. Room 812. I followed him there an hour ago." I turned sharply. "You what?" I wanted to confront him, he said. But then I saw Melanie. I couldn't make sense of it. For a moment, the whole world tilted. The rain outside blurred everything, but inside the car it felt too clear. "You saw them?" He nodded once. "Together." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone, the car keys, everything, but instead I just whispered, "I hate them." Richard looked at me then, not with pity, but with something dangerously kind. "Then let them destroy themselves. You don't have to help." We sat in silence. The city lights reflected in the puddles, turning the car into a small, trembling aquarium. Then Richard reached over, hesitated, and brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. It wasn't romantic, it was human. Gentle. "Come stay at my place tonight," he said. "You shouldn't be alone." I hesitated, but the thought of returning to that condo, our bed, our framed wedding photos, our stupid monogram towels, made me sick. Richard's apartment was the opposite of Malcolm's taste, books stacked everywhere, plants thriving, mismatched mugs. When he handed me a blanket and made tea, I almost laughed again. "You're the calm brother," I said. He smirked. "I try. Someone has to balance out the chaos in our DNA." We talked until 2 in the morning. About everything except Malcolm. Childhood stories, favorite cities, why he'd never married Penelope for love but for the convenience of stability. That last part caught me off guard. "She and I, we're like business partners who pretend to hold hands," he said. "You and Mel were the real thing." Or so I thought. I looked at the steam rising from my cup. "We were, once." When I finally went to sleep on his couch, the world still felt jagged, but there was a strange, fragile calm under it. At 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Malcolm. "Malcolm, please don't do anything stupid." And another from Melanie, seconds later. "Melanie, if you tell anyone, I'll never forgive you." I stared at the messages. Then at the closed door to Richard's room. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was fate. But right then, for the first time since the world fell apart, I didn't feel powerless. I whispered to myself, no, I won't do anything stupid. I'll do something smart. Outside, the rain finally stopped. Inside, revenge began to take shape. Morning sunlight cut across Richard's apartment like nothing had happened, like my world hadn't imploded less than 24 hours ago. The smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen, and for a second, I almost believed I'd woken from a nightmare. Then I saw my phone. 23 missed calls. 10 from Malcolm. 6 from Melanie. 7 from Mom. I didn't answer any of them. Richard was at the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. His t-shirt clung to his shoulders, damp from the shower, and his expression was somewhere between sympathy and wariness. "You look like someone planning something," he said lightly, sliding me a mug. "Maybe I am," I said. "What if I don't forgive him?" "You don't have to." I stirred my coffee, watching the swirl. "What if I make him feel it?" He leaned against the counter. "You mean revenge?" I looked up. "I mean justice." Richard's laugh was low, but not mocking. "Careful. That line disappears fast." "Good," I said. "Maybe I want it to." We didn't talk for a while. Just the sound of spoons, coffee, the hum of a city pretending to move on. By noon, I'd packed a small bag. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I went to my office, my safe zone. My coworkers gave me polite smiles, oblivious to the storm behind my eyes. I buried myself in spreadsheets and design briefs until I forgot to breathe. At lunch, Malcolm showed up. He stood at my glass door, wearing that same helpless, wounded expression that once melted me. "Alice," he said softly, stepping inside. "We need to talk." I crossed my arms. "You already talked, with my sister." He flinched. "It wasn't like that. It was complicated." "Complicated?" I hissed. "You slept with her, Mel." "My sister. The girl who stole my makeup in high school and my spotlight at graduation, and now my husband." He shut the door. "Alice, please. You don't understand. She came on to me." I didn't. "Oh, the classic 'she seduced me' defense. Wow. Real creative." He dragged a hand through his hair. "It was a mistake. One time. I swear." "Twice," I said coldly. "The hotel, the night of her birthday." "Don't bother lying again." Malcolm's mouth opened, then closed. That was the first time he didn't have a line ready. "Who told you?" "Does it matter?" He took a step closer. "If it's Richard." My pulse spiked. "What about him?" "He's always had a thing for you," Malcolm said bitterly. "Even before we got married." "Don't act surprised." I stared at him, words caught behind my teeth. He kept going, voice rising. "You think he's your friend?" "He's not. He's jealous. He's wanted to screw me over since college, and now he's using you to do it." I didn't respond. I just walked to the window, pretending to look outside, my reflection trembling. "You should go," I said. "Before I call security." He hesitated, then sighed. "You're angry. I get it. But I love you, Alice. And I'll fix this." When he finally left, I laughed under my breath. It sounded foreign, sharp, hollow. Fix this? Like a leak? That evening, I went back to Richard's. He was reading on the couch, glasses slipping down his nose. I didn't wait for pretense. "He said you've always wanted me," I blurted. Richard's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. "Maybe I did. Once. Before he proposed. I buried it. I respected you both. And now?" He met my eyes. "Now I just want to make sure you don't let him win." I sat down beside him, close enough to feel the warmth between us. What if I let you win instead? He smiled faintly, the kind that carries both warning and invitation. That's a dangerous game, Alice. I know. His fingers brushed mine, tentative at first. Then the touch deepened, deliberate. It wasn't a kiss yet, but the air shifted, heavy and charged. I'm not saving you, he said quietly. You have to save yourself. I'm not asking to be saved, I replied. Just, seen. That was how it started. Not with passion, but with pain and proximity, the two most volatile elements I'd ever mixed. Later that night, when he walked me to the door, he said, if you do this, you can't go back. I looked over my shoulder. Good. I don't want to. And for the first time since that lemon cake collapsed, I smiled. Not because I was healed, but because I was finally dangerous. The first time I kissed Richard, it didn't feel like cheating. It felt like exhaling after weeks of holding my breath. It happened 3 nights after Malcolm's visit to my office. Richard and I had been sharing dinners, takeout, mostly, and pretending they were therapy sessions. He'd pour wine, I'd rant about Malcolm's audacity, and we'd both pretend we weren't circling something dangerous. That night, I was quiet. Too quiet. Richard noticed. You're thinking about him again, he said, setting his glass down. No, I lied. I'm thinking about me. About how stupid I've been. He leaned forward. You weren't stupid. You trusted him. That's not a crime. Then why does it feel like one? He didn't answer. The silence thickened between us, soft and electric. The kind that hums right before a storm breaks. I stood up to leave, but he caught my wrist, not hard, just enough to make me stop. His voice was low. You deserve better, Alice. You always did. Something inside me snapped, or maybe melted. Either way, I turned and kissed him. It wasn't fireworks, it was oxygen. A deep, aching kind of relief. His hands trembled when they touched me, like he'd been waiting years for permission. For a second, the world tilted back into balance. For a second, I forgot that his brother's name was tattooed all over my past. When we broke apart, I whispered, we can't. I know, he said. But we will. And we did. That night became the start of an affair so perfectly ironic it could have been written by fate itself. Malcolm's wife and his brother. The symmetry of it almost made it poetic. But it didn't stop at one night. We fell into a rhythm, texts in code, lunches disguised as errands, weekend trips for work. Every secret made us bolder. Every risk made us reckless. The guilt I expected never came, instead, there was a strange, intoxicating sense of justice. Then came the first real complication. 2 weeks later, Melanie called. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. Alice, she said, her voice unusually fragile. Can we meet? Why? I need to talk. Please. Against my better judgment, I met her at a cafe downtown. She looked terrible, dark circles, shaky hands. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I'm pregnant, she blurted before I even sat down. My stomach turned cold. Whose? She hesitated. Malcolm's. I think. I froze. The universe wasn't subtle, it was cruelly theatrical. You think? Her eyes welled. It wasn't supposed to happen, Alice. It just. Don't, I snapped. Don't you dare play the victim. She flinched. I know. I deserve it. But. I don't know what to do. I stared at her, disgust and pity fighting for dominance. I wanted to throw my coffee in her face. I wanted to hug her. I did neither. Do whatever you want, I said coldly. But don't call me again. I stood up to leave. She grabbed my hand, desperate. Alice, please, don't tell him yet. I need time. I pulled my hand away. You've had enough of my time. When I got to Richard's that night, I was shaking. He opened the door, immediately concerned. What happened? I told him everything. He went pale, pacing. If she's pregnant. She says she is, I interrupted. And it's his. Richard stopped moving. You believe her? I hesitated. Yes. He exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. Then you need to be careful. Why? Because now, he has something to lose. And so do you. That night, we didn't touch. We just lay side by side, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, the air between us wasn't charged, it was heavy. 3 days later, my own test turned positive. I sat in my bathroom, the white stick trembling in my hand, the faint pink lines staring back. The world blurred. My first thought wasn't joy or fear, it was irony. I whispered to the empty room, "You've got to be kidding me." Then I laughed, hollow, breathless, slightly unhinged. 2 sisters. 2 brothers. 2 pregnancies. Somewhere, fate was probably a plot for a week. I lived in a fog of disbelief. I hid the test in my drawer, like evidence from a crime I hadn't decided whether to confess or conceal. I told no one, not Richard, not even myself out loud. It didn't feel real until the nausea hit in the middle of a presentation at work and I had to run out mid-sentence. That night, I went to Richard's. He was making pasta, humming softly, pretending everything was normal. He looked up when I entered, smiling. "You look pale," he said. "Rough day?" "Something like that." We ate quietly. He poured wine, forgetting, or maybe not realizing, what that glass meant now. I didn't touch it. After dinner, he finally asked what was wrong. "Richard," I said, voice trembling, "I'm pregnant." He froze. The fork slipped from his hand, clattering against the plate. He stopped. "Are you sure?" I nodded. He leaned back, rubbing his face. "And, you think it's mine?" "I don't know." The words tasted like rust. He laughed once, bitterly. "Well, that's poetic." I wanted to cry, but there were no tears left. "I didn't plan this." "I know," he said softly. "But we need to plan now." He stood and paced the kitchen, muttering under his breath. "If it's mine, I'll take care of you. You know that, right?" "I don't need taking care of," I said sharply. "I just need honesty." He turned toward me. "Then be honest. Do you still love him?" The question hit like a slap. "No," I said too quickly. Then, quieter, "Maybe I just hate him more than I can love anyone else." Richard crossed the room and took my hand. "Then let's stop pretending. We end this. All of it. We tell them." "Tell who?" He hesitated. "Penelope. Malcolm. Everyone. No more lies." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Malcolm's name. I almost ignored it, but something made me swipe. "Hey," I said flatly. "Dinner," he said. "Friday night. At Mom's. Everyone's coming, Melanie, Richard, Penelope. We need to talk like adults." My stomach dropped. "What's this about?" "You'll see." And then he hung up. When I looked up, Richard's face had gone pale. "He knows," he whispered. "About us? Maybe. Or maybe about her." Friday came faster than I wanted. I wore black, simple, silent, defensive. The kind of outfit you wear to either a funeral or an ambush. Malcolm's mother greeted me at the door with forced warmth. "Alice, darling. It's been too long." Melanie was already there, smiling nervously, her hand twitching near her stomach. Penelope looked like a woman armed with information and intent to use it. Richard gave me a quick, pleading glance across the table. We sat. Malcolm raised his glass. To family, he said, voice smooth. No matter how complicated. No one drank. Halfway through the meal, Penelope set her fork down. I think we should talk about what's really going on. Richard stiffened. Pen. Don't pen me. She turned to me. Tell me, Alice. How long have you and my husband been sleeping together? The table went silent. My fork hit the plate. Malcolm's face turned to stone. What? Melanie gasped, covering her mouth. Richard whispered, Penelope, stop. But she didn't. You think I wouldn't find your messages? The hotel receipts? The late-night calls? She looked straight at Malcolm. Your wife and your brother. Congratulations, your family's officially a soap opera. I wanted to disappear. Malcolm slammed his hand on the table. You're lying. I'm not, Penelope said. But maybe the DNA test will settle it. My blood ran cold. What DNA test? She smiled, small, vicious. The one I ordered. From your doctor's office. Everyone spoke at once. I couldn't hear a thing except my own pulse hammering. Malcolm stood, glaring at me. You're pregnant? The room went deadly still. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Then, quietly, Richard said, yes. She is. And that's when the storm truly began. The room erupted like an explosion in slow motion, voices crashing over each other, chairs scraping, cutlery clattering against porcelain. I sat there frozen, every sound muffled except my heartbeat, steady and terrifying. Malcolm's eyes locked on mine, bloodshot and bewildered. You're pregnant, he said again, this time quieter, the syllables trembling. I didn't answer. Melanie stood, her chair tipping backward. You said, she began, but Richard cut her off sharply. Enough, he snapped. This isn't the place. Oh, I think it's exactly the place, Penelope said coldly, sliding an envelope across the table. The lab emailed me the results this morning. Pen, what the hell did you do? Richard growled. What you were too cowardly to, she spat. Someone had to find out the truth. Malcolm snatched the envelope before anyone else could move. His hand shook as he tore it open, eyes darting down the page. The silence that followed was the longest 5 seconds of my life. Then his expression changed, anger melting into something worse. Shock. He looked up, meeting my eyes. It's not mine. The air left the room. Melanie gasped audibly. Richard froze. My body went numb. Say it, Malcolm demanded. Say it's his. Malcolm, I started, but my throat betrayed me. Say it. I closed my eyes. It's Richard's. The sound that came from Malcolm wasn't words, it was a low, animal growl. He slammed his fist onto the table, wine spilling like blood across the white cloth. My brother? You cheated with my brother? The irony hit me like a cruel joke, but I couldn't laugh. You don't get to play the victim, I whispered. You slept with my sister. He turned on Melanie, fury twisting his features. And you, what are you even doing here? Melanie started crying. Malcolm, please. Don't. His voice cracked. Don't say my name. Penelope stood, smoothing her skirt, voice crisp as glass. I think we're done here. She looked at Richard with quiet disgust. You'll hear from my lawyer. He didn't stop her as she left. None of us did. The front door slammed, the echo hanging in the silence that followed. Then, slowly, Malcolm sank into his chair and started to laugh, softly at first, then louder, until it bordered on madness. You know, he said, I almost felt sorry for you, Alice. Thought you were broken. But you're worse than me. I met his eyes, calm for the first time in days. No, Malcolm. I'm exactly like you. He shoved back from the table and stormed out, leaving his mother sobbing quietly in the kitchen doorway. Melanie ran after him, barefoot, mascara streaking down her cheeks. And then there were two. Richard sat across from me, shoulders slumped, face gray. The paper with the DNA results lay between us like a death certificate. "We can fix this," he said weakly. I almost laughed. "Richard, you can't fix a bomb once it's gone off." He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "Don't," I whispered. "Not now." Outside, thunder cracked. Rain began to pour again, hammering against the windows. It felt fitting, like the sky itself was trying to wash away what we'd done. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said softly. "I just wanted to protect you." "From him?" I looked up, hollow. "Or from yourself?" He didn't answer. I stood, wrapping my coat around me. "I need to go home." "Where's that?" he asked. I hesitated. "I don't know anymore." When I walked out, the rain hit me like a cleansing curse. The street lights blurred, the air heavy and electric. Somewhere behind me, the door shut quietly. For the first time since the affair began, I felt the weight of what I'd done, not righteous, not vindicated. Just empty. But as I pressed a hand against my stomach, I whispered to the small, silent life inside me, "You're mine. Whatever happens next, you're mine." And for the first time that night, I didn't feel completely alone. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Malcolm's face, the disbelief, the betrayal, the way his laughter turned feral at the dinner table. It played on repeat like a punishment. By morning, the gossip had already begun. Someone, probably Penelope, had leaked everything. I walked into the office and felt the shift immediately, whispered conversations, sympathetic stares, the sharp silence when I entered a room. By noon, I left. I couldn't stand the noise of pity. When I got home, the condo felt like a museum of my old life. The coffee mugs we bought on our honeymoon. The framed photo of us at my sister's graduation, Melanie grinning in the background like a shadow waiting to step forward. I grabbed the frame and threw it against the wall. The glass shattered, and the sound felt good. A knock came at the door. I almost didn't answer. But when I did, Richard was standing there, soaked from the rain, holding a bag of groceries. "I brought soup," he said, trying to smile. "You look like you haven't eaten." "I'm not hungry." "Then I'll eat," he said, brushing past me. His calmness irritated me, the way he could act normal while everything burned around us. I sank onto the couch. "They all hate us, you know." "Let them," he said, unpacking soup containers. "We knew what we were doing." "Did we?" I snapped. "Because I feel like I've lost everything, my husband, my sister, my reputation." He interrupted softly, "You still have me." I looked up at him. "Do I?" He froze. "What do you mean?" I hesitated, the words building in my throat. "You said we'd face this together. But you let Penelope throw me to the wolves last night." His jaw tightened. "I didn't stop her because she was right." The honesty hit harder than I expected. "Right? About what, us being selfish? Destroying two families?" "Because yeah, she's right about that." He sat across from me, voice low. "Alice, I love you. I didn't plan this, but I love you." I wanted to believe him. I wanted that to make it all okay. But love had become too tangled to mean anything pure. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. I ignored it, but the voicemail came seconds later. Her voice was sharp, trembling. "Alice, I just spoke to Melanie. She told me everything. How could you do this? How could you hurt your family like this?" I deleted it without listening further. Richard reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I need time." He nodded, quietly defeated. "I'll wait." After he left, the silence felt heavier than before. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out a small suitcase. I packed without thinking, just the essentials. A few clothes, my ultrasound appointment card, and my grandmother's locket. Before leaving, I stood in front of the mirror. I barely recognized myself. The woman staring back looked like a stranger wearing my skin. I checked into a small rental on the edge of town, a place with peeling wallpaper and the comforting anonymity of no memories. For the next few days, I ignored everyone. I went to work remotely, kept my phone on silent, and let the world collapse without me. One morning, there was a knock at the door again. I expected Richard, or worse, Melanie. But when I opened it, Malcolm stood there. His eyes were tired, bloodshot. He looked older somehow. "Can I come in?" he asked. I hesitated. "Why?" He sighed. "Because we need to talk. And because," he glanced down, "Melanie lost the baby." The world seemed to tilt. "What?" He nodded slowly. "Last night. She's at the hospital." I didn't know what to feel, pity, guilt, relief. Maybe all of it. "I thought you should know," he said quietly. "And, congratulations, I guess. I heard yours is healthy." His tone wasn't cruel. It was hollow. Before I could respond, he turned to leave. But just as he reached the door, he added, "Don't make my mistakes, Alice. They'll eat you alive." When the door closed, I stood there for a long time, hand over my stomach, realizing that for the first time since this all began, Malcolm had sounded human. And that terrified me more than anything. After Malcolm's visit, the world slowed down. Days blurred into each other, the silence of my rented apartment broken only by the ticking of the wall clock and the faint hum of the city outside. I wasn't sure if I was healing or just hiding. Melanie texted once, "I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness." I didn't reply. Some wounds didn't deserve words. Richard came by often, bringing groceries and small attempts at normalcy, flowers, baby books, gentle jokes that almost made me smile. But something between us had shifted. Love that began as defiance was now burdened with consequence. One evening, we sat on the floor surrounded by unopened boxes of baby things he'd bought. "We can still make this work," he said softly. "Start over." I looked at him, really looked, and saw exhaustion behind the hope in his eyes. "We can't start over," I said. "We can only go forward." He nodded, but I could see the fear behind his calm. The next day, I visited Melanie in the hospital. She looked small, pale, almost childlike. We didn't speak for a while. Then she whispered, "I lost everything too." I swallowed. Maybe we both needed to. We didn't hug. But when I left, she smiled weakly. It was enough. That night, I stood on my balcony, hand over my stomach, watching the city lights flicker like 1,000 little chances. The chaos had quieted. The anger had cooled. What remained was something fragile, acceptance, maybe. For the first time, I whispered aloud, "You're my second chance." And in the quiet between storms, I almost believed it. By the time spring arrived, the city had thawed, and so had I. I'd moved into a small townhouse near the park, quiet and sunlit, with a balcony big enough for a single chair and a potted lavender plant. My belly had started to show, subtle but undeniable. The first few months alone were brutal. I woke up crying some mornings, missing the illusion of what my life used to be. But routine helped, morning walks, prenatal classes, freelance projects from home. Slowly, the noise faded. One afternoon, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was Melanie. "Hi," she said softly. I didn't hang up. "What do you want?" "I wanted to say I'm sorry," she whispered. "Not that it matters. But I am." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I said, "I forgive you." She exhaled, shaky. "Really?" "I have to," I said. "For me. Not for you." We ended the call quietly, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel anger when I thought of her. Just sadness, and maybe a small kind of grace. A week later, Richard showed up at my door. He looked nervous, holding a small box wrapped in brown paper. "Before you slam the door," he said, smiling awkwardly, "just open this." Inside was a silver bracelet, simple, elegant, with a tiny charm shaped like a heartbeat line. "For her," he said. "Or him. When they're older." I felt tears well up. "Richard, you didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted gently. "I'm not asking to move back into your life. I just want to be part of theirs. If you'll let me." I studied him for a long moment. The old tension between us had softened into something steadier, less fire, more warmth. "We'll see," I said. "One step at a time." He smiled, relief flickering in his eyes. "One step's all I need." When he left, I watched him walk down the street until he disappeared into the crowd. I touched the bracelet, feeling the tiny engraved pulse. That night, I sat on the balcony with my tea, the air sweet with the scent of lavender. My phone buzzed, a message from Malcolm. "Malcolm, I'm leaving the city. Just wanted to say I hope you're okay." I stared at the words for a while, then typed back. "Alice, I will be." And for the first time, I meant it. Summer came quietly. The air felt softer, forgiving. When my daughter was born, tiny, perfect, fierce, I named her Hope. The first time I held her, everything else disappeared. The betrayal, the noise, the grief, all of it dissolved in the small rhythm of her breathing. She was proof that something good could grow out of ruin. Richard came to the hospital the next day. He didn't speak at first, he just looked at her, eyes shining. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She looks like you," I said, smiling. He looked at me then, a mix of pride and apology. "Thank you, for letting me be here." I nodded. "We'll figure the rest out. Together, but differently." He understood. There would be no more secrets, no more vengeance disguised as love. Just two flawed people trying to raise something pure. Weeks later, as I walked Hope through the park, I realized the world felt light again. Not perfect, never perfect, but alive. I wasn't the same woman who baked lemon cakes for a husband's lies or plotted revenge in the dark. I was something new. A survivor. A mother. A woman who'd finally stopped burning herself just to prove she could rise from the ashes. And as the sunlight touched Hope's face, I whispered, "We're okay now." For the first time in a long time, it was true.